Hi everyone and welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel with me, Tom Campbell, for another elite team reveal. And in this week's video, I'm really pleased to say I've got Corey and Craig's teams to show to you guys. They were on the channel last season, so hopefully you're excited to see what they've got planned for the upcoming season. I should say, guys, that timestamps are on the video if you do want to hop around. And if you are interested in checking out more team reveals, do head over to fantasyfootballfix.com, where you can check out over 82 top 10k finishes amongst our elite managers. There's a section in the website for you to peruse. But without further ado, guys, let's get right into it. Guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited to say for you, we've got another elite team reveal section, and these are for two teams where I had on the channel last season. We had Corey coming at you from America and Craig coming at you from Copenhagen. They're both super successful managers, and I mentioned at the introduction as well that you can head over to fantasyfootballfix.com and you can check out their blog thoughts alongside all of the other elite managers that we are so proud to have on the site to help you guys out in your planning for the upcoming season. Now, we're taking a look at Corey's team to start with, and you can see that he's gone for the 3-5-2 formation. Kind of interesting to look on that bench, isn't it, guys, to see Colwill sitting there as the second choice substitute. So Corey's obviously feeling that Colwill is likely to get that centre-half spot in Pochettino's team selection for Chelsea. Obviously, they've got a tough game week 1, but then their fixtures do ease, as we know. So might be something that you guys are interested in looking at if you're looking for a cheap defensive option to supplement your other defenders. But let's take a little look at how Corey's setting up his defence, and we'll start with the goalkeeper here, guys. And kind of an interesting one straight off the bat, isn't it? We've actually gone for Ederson. Corey is a sucker for punishment. We know he was a difficult hold last season, wasn't he, Ederson? But they've got these wonderful fixtures upcoming for the first several game weeks of the season, don't they? Starting with an away match at Burnley. Ederson's coming in at 5.5 million, and I guess the thinking there is that he is the most surefire way or most nailed option to get into the Man City defence, and Corey is thinking that, you know, this could be the way to secure some clean sheet points for Man City as we approach game week 1 and the first, certainly the initial part of the season. So really interesting there. I've not seen him in too many teams. So does he tickle your fancy at 5.5 million for Man City for the treble winners of last season? We'll have to take a look and see how that progresses. Moving into the back line, we've got that 3 at the back formation. And I think this is more typical that we've seen on sort of the template forming, and certainly across our elite managers on fantasyfootballfix.com. You can see that he's opted for Luke Shaw as the Man United defensive cover. They've got great fixtures upcoming at the beginning of the season. Shaw was impressive last season, and Malacia as the understudy didn't seem to threaten those minutes too much. So Shaw's coming in at 5.5 million, guys. We know that Wolves home fixture looks quite tasty, and he does have a nice run to start the season. Gabriel is the one for the Arsenal contingent for Corey in at 5 million. Obviously, Ben White's been priced a little bit higher at 5.5 million. So Corey's favouring the set piece threat of Gabriel, and he performed super impressively last season at a very friendly price, and another team with nice fixtures to start the season. Gabriel in at defence as well, and then Pervis Estupiñán at 5 million as well. Brighton again, a team with great fixtures in that Luton home match to start things off. So yeah, kind of a more template feel to the back three then. I'm sure that back three is going to be mirrored across many of our elite managers, and of course across your teams as well, guys. Let us know in the comments whether or not you are deviating from that, or if that's the same back three or back four, I guess, with Ederson as well. Do let us know in the comments. Onto the midfield now, and you can see Corey's opted for a 5-man midfield, and we've got the double contingent or complement from Man United there in Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford, coming in with 8.5 million and 9 million respectively. Really interesting to see how that's going to dovetail now with the imminent arrival of Rasmus Haaland from Atalanta. It's been announced recently that they are expecting that deal to be completed. I'm recording on Sunday, so that should be completed imminently, and suddenly you see Marcus Rashford more likely, I guess, then to operate in his more favoured position off the left rather than having to operate in a number 9 position. So whether or not that's a concern for you guys as FPL managers, you maybe have your fears allayed now, bearing that signing in mind. So kind of interesting to see that that's the treble up there of Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford. Saka in at 8.5 million is super highly owned, guys. You can check effective ownership stats over on fantasyfootballfix.com, of course. And we know that Saka had an amazing season last season. We're expecting him to take penalties as well. He did take one and miss one in the preseason. We know that. So Saka is great value at 8.5 million, and Corey's backing him again. Alongside Matoma, I mentioned the Brighton fixtures. Of course, they are very kind to start the season. Matoma had a superb season, last time out, and in at a very friendly 6.5 million. Bodes well for him ahead of that Luton game as well. And with Ivan Toney out, Mbumo at 6.5 million is where Corey's completing that midfield, obviously expecting Brentford to look to Mbumo to supply the goals in Toney's absence. So that completes his midfield there. We go on to the front two. I think you can probably guess who owns the captaincy. And indeed, it is Erling Haaland in at 14 million. Kind of difficult for me to sing the praises of Erling Haaland. I suspect that that's something that you guys are all too familiar with. And the other team that has a treble up, I guess, in Corey's team is Arsenal, as he's opted for Gabriel Jesus, picking up that other striker slot in there at 8 million ahead of that Forest game at home. So Corey's tended to favour, or is erring on the side of Gabriel Jesus rather than, say, for example, Ollie Watkins. But you can see there Corey's great finishes over the season with top 1k, top 5k and top 10ks are plenty, and that is how Corey Baker is looking to line up ahead of game week 1, guys. If you do want to stay close to that team, you can of course head over to fantasyfootballfix.com, as I mentioned, and follow the blog thoughts, as his team may change over the last few days before we get started with game week 1. Anyway, guys, that is Corey Baker's team. Let us know in the comments how you feel that this team is shaping up. How does it differ from yours? And now we will take a look at Craig's team to see how his team differs. Okay, fab. So we can see straight away that Craig, has also opted for this 3-5-2 formation, which does seem to be really in vogue, doesn't it, for the pre-season? So no surprise here to see that Craig, alongside our other elite managers, the vast majority are looking at that 3-5-2 formation. Interesting to look at that bench again. You've actually got João Pedro sitting there on the bench as a third striking option. So some of the Brighton contingent we've already talked about, and actually now being supplemented, and João Pedro in at 5.5 million. Interesting pick for Craig there, and interesting to see that he doesn't make the starting lineup, goodness me, for a home match against Luton. So I'm sure we're going to wonder who on earth you would select ahead of him. So let's get right into that. Obviously, the goalkeeper wouldn't be someone you'd be able to substitute out, unfortunately, but let's see who Craig is selecting in goal. And we've mentioned those Man United fixtures ahead of game week 1, starting with that Wolves game and the new signing following on from David De Gea being let go at the end of his contract. Onana coming in at 5 million, very friendly price, and is super popular, as you can imagine. And 5 million, that 0.5 million cheaper than Edison, for example. So Craig's differing there from Corey's selection, has gone for Onana. Let's see whether or not there is any Man City defensive coverage in his back three. And indeed there is. We've got Stones in at 5.5 million there. And John Stones did operate, as we saw in the latter stages of last season, in more of a midfield type role, and it was very well backed by Guardiola throughout the season. So Craig is thinking that Stones is a safe enough bet there in at centre half, and I guess the offensive potential behind that selection as well has encouraged him to select him as well and go that route rather than the Edison and Shaw feeling. I think there might be some bad blood between Craig and Edison from seasons gone past. I'll be interested to get Craig's always very passionate thoughts when we get him back on the channel in the coming weeks. And I'm so enthused and excited to see that Ben Chilwell has found his way into this starting lineup as well. 5.5 million into the game week 1 team for Craig. And Chelsea, we know last season were absolutely abject, but they are under new management now. They've been recruiting throughout the season and moving players out, so it's a very different setup there in terms of personnel, in terms of playing style, and with the person at the top of the tree, I guess, selecting the team. So it's going to be fascinating to see whether or not Chilwell operates in a back 4 or back 5, how his minutes play out. But we know from years of experience, when Ben Chilwell plays, he operates super high up the pitch and has been a wonderful FPL asset when he's available and when he's fit for selection. So can definitely get on board with that selection, even in spite of that tough game week 1 fixture. Chelsea's fixtures do ease thereafter. So yeah, fascinating pick there. Ben Chilwell in that back 3 for Craig. Let's take a look at the midfield and see how this differs from Corey's. So you can see the Man United double up is not something that Craig, has accommodated here. We do have Bruno Fernandes in there at 8.5 million. Does seem to be an awful lot of feeling in the community and amongst our FPL elite managers that Bruno Fernandes represents terrific value, even if operating on that wide right side of the midfield, which he's done in pre-season a little bit. So we'll have to see whether or not that plays out. But certainly the faith with Bruno Fernandes is being demonstrated with our elite managers, and Craig is no different there. He's opted for Martinelli, who's actually comes in lower price than Saka and Odegaard, who I know Craig's a big fan of as well, and maybe that's informed that decision there. The 8 million price tag for Martinelli, enough to secure him a spot in that midfield alongside Saka, who we've already mentioned, Matoma as well, I talked about on the previous slide as well. And look at that, we've got Phil Foden in at 7.5 million. Craig is not perturbed by the return of Kevin De Bruyne. He's backing Foden to start the season. Well, how about you guys? Do you see Foden securing those minutes needed to get you points? Craig certainly does. He's in at 7.5 million, which is another high upside pick, I guess. And we'll look forward to seeing how he gets on against Burnley and in the opening few game weeks in the front too. Again, we can have a safe bet around the captaincy, but who is alongside him? And we've got a bit of consistency to round off the video there, guys, with Erling Haaland picking up the captaincy, Saka retaining that vice-captaincy, as I mentioned, and Gabriel Jesus completing that trio of Arsenal attacking players for Craig, with Gabriel Jesus, Saka and Martinelli rounding out the team. So some subtle differences here. It's going to be fascinating to see how these teams change, if at all, before game week 1, and we'll get the managers back on the show as soon as I possibly can once the season has started, to see how these teams actually shaped up and how they got on, and I'm excited to get their thoughts ahead. Well, once we've actually had some football, which is so close, guys. Super exciting now as well. Anyway, that about rounds it off for this Elite 11 team reveal. I mention again, if you do want to check out over 80 top 10k finishes amongst our elite managers and get their thoughts, then do head over to fantasyfootballfix.com and you can check out that section on the website. We've got lots of other great tools available as well for you to plan your teams ahead of game week 1 and throughout the rest of the season. And you know what, soon enough, guys, we'll actually have some football to talk about. Game week 1 is just around the corner, so get those drafts in, get those comments in as well. Do please subscribe to the channel, do please subscribe to fantasyfootballfix.com, and I look forward to talking to you all very, really, really soon. And good luck with your planning, and I'll talk to you all next week. Take care. Bye bye.